tell you something, Jeff? As somebody who's been sitting on $1,000 chair for 10 years, just feels like a chair. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Canada.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. AI is trash.
Well, we know that.
AI sucks so hard, dude. And it just keeps worming its way into more and more trash and shit and garbage. I'm like, I had forgotten. I had to replace my laptop.
Yeah.
Jeff, can you believe that my laptop died after only a decade? Doesn't that seem wild?
That does seem like a short lifespan for a laptop.
Just only a decade, Jeff. Feels like
a mere 10 years.
Longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long is a laptop supposed to last?
I think of 15 minutes. I think they're supposed to last until the next CES.
Yeah.
That's the,
how often genuinely, how often do you replace a laptop?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I don't laptop.
You don't have one. You don't need one.
I have one. I have a Chromebook just to have a Chromebook because they're not that expensive. And, you know, the kids use the Chromebook sometimes for homework and stuff. I am old enough that a PC is one. I hate trackpads. I hate the process of laptop. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I don't do it.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like that's entirely fair.
Thank you.
Have to have a laptop because, you know, I go to the studio and do the morning show. And also my ADHD, I could sit down at the computer and my ADHD goes, this is the wrong place. And I go, what do you mean ADHD? And it goes, no, this is the wrong place. This task can't be done here. This task can only be done over there. And I go, that seems foolish, brain. And my brain says, yeah, but try to do the task and see what happens.
I get that. I mean, obviously the portability is a benefit. At this point in my life, I don't go anywhere, which is really lovely. I gotta admit. So I like having I have an office in my house. I go to the office. I sit at the computer. I don't need a laptop. And my wife is all laptop. Yeah. But I will say the lifespan of my desktop computer is not terribly long. I find they commit suicide at a certain point. Like
they do.
3 years. 3 years in, and then they basically are like, I don't work anymore.
I think you're probably bad at computer.
Oh, that's certainly possible. It certainly could be an operator error.
If you get a computer that's exploding every 3 years, you might be bad at computer, dog.
I click on all these links that the people send me, and all of a sudden it stops working. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the grandkids send me links from google.place.real.
That's right.
So
the real Google place.
I had to replace my laptop after only a quick 10 years. And I too Chromebooked. I got a Chromebook from my mom because she was like, when she retired, she was like, oh, I need a little laptop because they took my little laptop back from me after I retired. And I was like, you're supposed to tell them you don't know what happened to that.
Yeah.
I was like, you're supposed to tell them you already gave that back and they should figure their shit out. You don't. And also,
I'm retired now. Bye.
Yeah. Good luck getting me on the phone later. So I was like, well, I'll get you a little laptop. I buy her a little laptop. I buy her a little Chromebook, but it takes me like a couple weeks to do it. By the time I send it to her, she's like, oh no, I don't need that anymore. I was like, what? My mom went to the Apple store and bought herself like a tricked out rose gold, blinged out fucking top of the line MacBook. And I was like, for what?
Get it.
For what? You don't know how to open your email. She's like, I just want.
She's retired now, man. You got to have that bling.
Yeah. She was like, it's just cute. It was a cute little one and I liked it. And I was like, well, send me the fucking one that I sent you back so I could send it back to Amazon before And she's like, yeah, I'll mail it out. Jeffrey, she is, of course, my mother. She's like me, except high all the time. And you know how good I am at mailing things out.
Yeah.
So
so you haven't gotten that laptop back.
Yeah. By the time I got the laptop back, it was like 4.5 months later. I'm like, Amazon, can I send this back? They're like, who are you, dude?
Yeah.
Where did you come from?
We have no recollection of this.
Yeah. So I am running a little Chromebook, which I spent way too much time hacking and putting a real operating system on so I can run it like a real computer. And the first thing that I noticed when I opened up my browser on this new little computer of mine was how much AI I had blocked over the last year and a half, one bit at a time. And the way it added up, when I opened up a brand new computer and tried to search Google for something, I was like, holy shit. I had forgotten how much AI I had blocked step by step over the last year and a half.
Oh, yeah.
It's on every site. It's in everything.
Yeah, it really is.
And I had installed so many little browser extensions and blocks and like put things in my hosts file on Windows, just everything to block as much of this stuff so I could get to real information.
No, you don't want real information. What? What? No.
I searched something on Google and immediately within the first search, it gave me step-by-step incorrect instructions that I knew for a fact were wrong.
Can I tell you a story that happened yesterday?
Yeah.
Yesterday. So it's been like scary cold here lately. Like they said, it's been the coldest in Colorado in 25 years. We were at like -30 with the wind chill.
Wow. Okay. So, but like we're on fire. So shut up.
You know, potato, I guess.
No, we're little. Okay. That's fine. All right. I'm sorry you're cold.
Well, the point is we stayed indoors and it was a long weekend. We had an extra day off of school from the kids. So there was a lot of sitting in the house doing stuff. And so my wife and I said, you know what? Mostly me. Let's put it this way. It's mostly me. I said, I think it might be time. The boy is 8. The girl is 6. The wife is older than that. Mm-hmm. None of those 3 people have seen Star Wars: A New Hope. None of them have. My wife has never sat down and watched it from start to finish. My kids hadn't seen it yet. I was like, now this is the weekend. We're doing it. We're going to go and we're going to sit down as a family, pop up some popcorn, sit there, watch A New Hope. I'm going to lay it out for the family. This is the time.
For those who don't know, you bought a house in Colorado that had a secret theater.
Like it does have a movie theater inside it.
Yeah. Yes. And they weren't allowed to charge you for it because of some like weird technical law. It wasn't allowed to be included in the value of the house.
That's right. It's a below ground basement movie theater that doesn't add to the value of the house.
So you have this free movie theater because this is what happens when you leave a major city. And you take the kids down to this movie theater experience to watch Star Wars. And I have to ask you, Jeff, how bored were they?
No, they actually loved it. They loved it. It was great. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because we were trying to schedule this out. My wife was like, well, how long is Star Wars: A New Hope? And much to my embarrassment as a lifelong nerd, I did not know the running time of Star Wars. So my wife goes, I will.
That's not a thing to be embarrassed about.
I feel like I should know that. I felt like I should know. I've seen A New Hope how many times? Dozens. I should know the running time.
Almost 2 hours. It's like 2 hours even, just about.
That's right. My wife opens Google and the AI thing that's at the top of Google search.
Yeah, number one thing. You can't escape.
Told her Star Wars: A New Hope is 2 hours and 45 minutes.
No.
And I said, that's not true.
No.
That's not right. And she's like, but it says it right here. Look, it says 2 hours, 45 minutes. I said, Star Wars: A New Hope, 1977's Star Wars: A New Hope is not 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
There's no way. There's no way anybody's going to a movie theater to see something that's 2 hours and 45 minutes long in 1977.
I was shocked. I was like, of all the things for Google AI to get wrong, the running time of Star Wars?
The running time of Star Wars. Look, and you don't know where it's pulling this shit from, but it's just
right.
And it's trained to say it in the most conversationally. It says it the same way that we, as middle-aged white men, say anything we think is true.
Right.
We just say it as like,
exactly.
We just say it
confident.
As like, yeah, I assume this is true.
Unquestioned. Yeah. Yes.
What do you think? Oh, I think this. It's probably true. Is how we do it. And it's not, it's not like it's not that I believe 100% that it's true. It's just that you asked me for my opinion and like, there it is. AI is the same way, and it shouldn't be. It's not supposed to be, and it shouldn't be allowed to be. But it is. But it is. And here's the thing, Jeff. A new study by the Swiss Business School has found that increased reliance on artificial intelligence tools is linked to diminished critical thinking abilities. Yeah. You look at Google saying that Star Wars: A New Hope is 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's right there at the top. And you go, I looked it up. There's the answer. Yeah. Why would I need to look up anything else?
Why do I need to think about it? I don't need to think about it. The computer thought about it for me.
It's right there. There you go.
There was that other thing that was going around about Google AI saying, water doesn't freeze at 27 degrees because the freezing point of water is 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's right.
So 27, it's not frozen because it's not 32. That's right.
Ice only occurs at exactly 32 degrees.
That's right.
If it's anything more or less, you simply can't have ice. That's why refrigerators are so amazing. Yeah. Refrigerators are the number one most important technology we have. And it's because they can keep things at exactly
the precision. It's the precision of a fridge. If you've ever interacted with a refrigerator, you know it's a precisely orchestrated ecosystem in there. There's nothing weird or different or varying.
That's why the dial just goes from 1 to 5 and it doesn't tell you what any of that means. Because it's just varying. Right. It's varying degrees of 32 degrees. What it is it's 32.8. 32.6, 32.4.
That's right. That's right.
How do you like your ice?
Decimal?
Do you like your ice a little chewier or a little softer?
That's right. Is it a super crunchy ice or like a little like a slushy?
That's right. Do you like a little bite to it? That's right. It's awful. They basically this was published in Societies. It's called, the study is called AI Tools in Society, Impacts on Cognitive Offloading and the Future of Critical Thinking. We've talked a lot about cognitive offloading. We are not enemies of cognitive offloading. Here we have concerns.
I love a calculator.
I love a smartphone. I love
a calendar. Yeah.
I love being able to look things up. I do. Yeah. We've often talked about over the last 10 years. Hey, it's okay to look things up on the internet because you don't need to remember everything anymore.
That's right.
My opinion on this is quickly changing as the internet becomes poisoned by this AI.
Well, unreliable resources tend to change my opinion about, looking things up. That's a bummer.
Yeah. This is a mix of quantitative surveys and qualitative interviews across 666 participants. Whoa, the devil.
That's not an accident. Not an accident.
Uh-oh. Who can we believe? Can we believe this study written by the Prince of Lies? It says right here in Society's journal that this was written by Nicholas Scratch.
It says you can't trust AI and you can't trust AI and also murder your family? Yeah. What?
You can't trust AI or the Lord above? basically, they took these 666 people and they got a good distribution. It was 3 age groups, 17 to 25, 26 to 45, 46 and older, of varying educational backgrounds. And the first thing they did for the quantitative is they asked them a 23-item questionnaire measuring their how much they use AI, their cognitive offloading tendencies, their critical thinking skills, things like that. Are you
a robot? You have to tell us if you're a robot.
Do you love Satan?
Yeah.
How likely are you to commit profane crimes?
Hey, we couldn't get one more. Who's in charge of the list of people? It was Norman over in the corner. Norman? The guy with all the pentagrams on his cubicle?
That's right.
Who wears that black hood to work every day?
That's right. Norman Paimon. PhD. He's got a PhD. We got to let him practice.
He was in charge of organizing all the participants.
They basically grabbed this thing called the Halpern Critical Thinking Assessment. It's basically like they've come up with this idea of a questionnaire that looks at things that intelligence tests miss. It's not.
Yeah. I've a lot of complaints about what intelligence tests miss.
Yeah.
My je ne sais quoi that is it's always missed by the intelligence tests.
That's right. I solve the problems. I think
right.
about them critically. Do I come up with answers that the establishment likes?
Yeah, right. That they think are correct or usable in any way? No, of course not.
Of course not. And do I care about that? Yes, I do. My self-esteem is very low and I'm very defensive about it.
These are things that the intelligence tests always miss. Like, how hard I tried,
Mm-hmm. How good a boy I am.
Or how much I wanted it to be right.
That's right. Whether I have the heart of a champion or not. Which, as we know from film, is the most important thing.
That's like 90% of winning, is my understanding. Having watched Rudy 400 times.
That's right. Critical thinking skills are different than intelligence skills because critical thinking skills are about self-reflection, self-awareness, cognitive management. So it's more... if we were going to put it into layman's terms or into the terms of people that sit at Dungeons and Dragons tables, it's wisdom versus intelligence, right?
Ah, yes. I get it. Now I understand.
That's right, because you're a special boy and you're very intelligent. See, it's easy to do intelligence tests. You can just say it to people.
Just be nice about it. How about that? Try that.
Hey, intelligence tests, be nice to me. I'm having a hard week.
You know what fails emotion tests? Intelligence tests. That's what fails.
That's right. So they basically gave these people questionnaires that included things like the Halpern Critical Thinking Assessment, things like that. And then qualitative data from semi-structured interviews with 50 participants then got analyzed as well. So they took all the data from everybody and then they interviewed 50 people. This is one of those, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is one of those business school studies that we cover sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to look at the rigorousness of this and you're going to be like, this is all based on self-reporting and what people think.
Sure.
And here's the problem with like a sociological study. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I do.
It's like, yeah. Like
they said it. That's what they said. I mean, I know that they're attempting to balance out all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think ultimately these tests tend to be pretty defensible for a large part. But you're right. It is all. Well, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking into trends. The thing is, even if you wanted to start a big data scraping sort of study, right, where you looked at people's usage of AI over time, we're not in a place where you can do that yet because these tools are so new. And also these companies are going to be very private about how people use their data. So they're going to be private unless like they need to sell your data or the cops come knocking on their door, they'll roll over for that. But like,
ain't no cops coming anymore, baby.
Pew, pew, pew.
Not anymore.
But you know what I mean? It's like companies don't want to show that reliance on their stuff makes people dumber or leads to any sort of like negative mental states or anything like that.
Right. They want them to be dumber. They just don't want them to know they're dumber.
So this early on, we're looking at self-reporting. That's what we're looking at, and that's okay.
Yeah.
What's very interesting is as they looked at it, there was a significant negative correlation between AI tool usage and overall critical thinking scores. Now, remember, critical thinking scores have more to do with, like we were talking about, self-awareness, cognitive management, metacognition, right? Things that are just like thinking about thinking. The ability to self-regulate in order to apply learning strategies. That's kind of that's kind of what we're looking at here. It's like, can you be taught to learn? Do you know how to learn? Right, which is an important thing. What they were looking at is the more people use these tools, the less able they were to critically evaluate information and engage in reflective problem solving. Right?
Woof.
Computer says this is the answer. I went to computer for answer.
Yeah, well, it feels like even, correct me if I'm wrong, but the study isn't even saying you took the answer from the AI and didn't critically think about it. It's saying that once you start using AI, you don't critical think about other things.
You start doing it less. Yeah, it's an overall, there's less critical thinking. I think
that's the worrisome part isn't that you just take take the information as it's served to you. That I can actually kind of understand as you go, this is an authority figure. This is supposed to be correct. Yeah. I'll take it on faith. That I think I could defend to a certain extent. It's not great. It's not what we want, but I could defend it on a certain level. The idea that this is then applied to other facets of your life and you just sort of stop critically thinking is the scary part.
It begins a pattern of behavior, I guess is what they're saying, right? And that's extremely, extremely frightening. They said that younger participants, the people in the 17 to 25 age group, showed higher dependence on AI tools and lower critical thinking scores compared to older age groups. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, and advanced educational attainment correlated positively with critical thinking skills, suggesting that education mitigates some of the cognitive impacts of AI reliance. So if you start off from a place where you've been through a bit more education, you think a little bit more critically to begin with, you're less likely to just blanket believe the AI tools, which also makes sense.
It does. If you've already sort of worked that muscle, right? You've had to learn how to think, then you don't just abandon it in the face of this new tech.
Particularly at a college level or a postgraduate level where most of the education is focused on defensible information, right? A lot of university and post-university education is okay, there's your idea, defend it, show the right information to defend it.
Right. Yes.
So I could see where that's particularly good for having that sort of defense against the AI stuff. Like you said, the younger group is unsurprising, right? Because they're growing up surrounded by it.
That's right. It's normal. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's worrisome is that that is going to be the case, is that if we don't teach media literacy, if we don't teach critical thinking, and we don't ask them to ask and just take what's fed, then that skill will atrophy, and we'll have an entire generation of people that don't think about things in the same way and just deal in misinformation. And that is really worrisome.
Well, listen, we had a misinformation problem and a critical thinking problem throughout all of mankind's history. Like,
sure.
But we don't, we are planeswalkers, Jeffrey. You and I.
Yeah, I know. We're the last generation of the planeswalkers.
We exist between two realities. I as a child, I had a card catalog.
Yeah.
And now then I lived through the golden age of the internet, where literally, yes, everything on the internet was true. Nobody thought to lie on the internet.
That's right.
We thought to make
They put the Encyclopedia Britannica on a CD-ROM.
That's right.
That's what we did.
It had videos.
Yeah, baby.
You would look something up and it had 3 videos about it.
Do you want the truth? Put your CD-ROM into your disc tray.
But we became adults in the age where, like, not only was Wikipedia available, it was pretty reliable, right? Like early on in the first early couple of years of Wikipedia, everybody was like, you can't use Wikipedia as a source. There's no way you can do that.
Right.
Now it's pretty respected. Like, Wikipedia is pretty accurate. You could look something up and you would get the most relevant information. The same way that, like, social media was pretty good when it started. You know what I mean? Like, there was a time where the internet was pretty decent and it looked like it was only going to get better. So we have seen what it is like to have all of the correct information of the world at your fingertips and then literally have it taken away.
Yeah. We watched it happen.
There was up until a few years ago, I could look up what I wanted to on the internet and I was pretty likely to get the most relevant information almost instantly. You know what I mean? Maybe the first thing I found on the internet the first Google result wouldn't have everything I wanted. And I'd check the second page. You know, I'd go to Wikipedia and somewhere else to look up a little bit more like context. But you could pretty accurately sit at a table with your friends and you could be like, man, I wonder what this is about. And you could just look it up.
Yeah. I don't know about
taken away over the last few years.
Well, do you feel, I feel a real sense of whiplash from that. I mean, I can't put my finger on the exact moment it happened, probably 2016, but the feeling of going from we're entering an informational utopia, which I genuinely felt as a young person.
It was the Fruit Arrow, baby.
Yes.
Fruit Arrow, you turned on a computer and it would give you a background of lush rolling hills and bubbles floating through the sky. And everything started up with chimes and beautiful, like, wind chime information and sounds.
Yeah. It was amazing.
It was gorgeous.
I honestly felt like the future was bright. It felt as bright as that image. And you know, and I felt like computers and the internet, the information superhighway was going to be the fulfillment of, you know, humanity's desire to be supremely informed. And the whiplash of going from that to, oh no, we all got stupider by connecting ourselves to each other.
The hive mind is dumber on average.
How did we do that?
We don't have to worry about the Borg or anything like that, or the xenomorphs, the ultimate hive mind killing machine. No, it turns out you network everybody together, you get dumber.
We went from the wisdom of the crowds to everybody's lying to me.
I think, but I think this is interesting because you think about the 17 to 25, the people who are showing higher dependence on AI tools. And, you know, you don't go to the card catalog anymore.
Right.
Right. So it's like, this is the way.
You don't even go to the library anymore.
Yeah. This is the way that you look things up. This is the way that you do stuff. And it's very fascinating to me because I don't know if you've seen this a lot. I will sometimes I will get an email or I'll be in a meeting or I'll just be on Reddit and somebody has a question and there's always one person that's like, oh, I looked it up on ChatGPT and it says this.
Yeah.
And listen, honestly, you can say I looked it up on ChatGPT and I would take it the same as oh, I Googled it, or, oh, I looked it up in the encyclopedia or whatever. If it wasn't for the fact that ChatGPT was so wrong so often.
Yeah.
And number two, when ChatGPT isn't wrong, I will look at this person's like, oh, I looked it up on ChatGPT, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, my dude, you could have gotten the same information from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There's nothing ChatGPT is doing. Because
ChatGPT got it from Wikipedia.
Exactly. When ChatGPT gets it right, it got it from Wikipedia. When ChatGPT gets it wrong, which is a lot of the time, it's so fucking wrong.
Yeah.
It's so fucking, and I think the real reason for the dependence on it is the fact that this is the new thing that companies are pushing their stock value with. And so you're going to get a button to search AI on Twitter. You're going to get a button to search Gemini on Google. You're going to get it put at the top of everything.
Ain't even a button. Yeah, it's not even a button. It's just served to you first.
And so because of that ease of use, if like Threads or Twitter or whatever, instead of having the little Grok button, if they had a Wikipedia button, people would use that instead. It's the fact that it's right there.
Yeah.
And it's what you use, and it's the easiest thing to use. It's also the fact that, like, okay, I could ask, obviously if I'm looking for academic information, I could check Wikipedia. But if I'm looking for like, hey, I'm looking for the best restaurants in this area, right? You now have to know multiple sources to find that information from, right?
Yeah.
You can look it up on Google and it'll give you like 10 different things, mostly ads. Right?
Yeah. All sponsored. Exactly.
And so I think the reason why people will go to an AI tool over something like a search engine these days is literally there are no ads plastered all over ChatGPT. You go to use ChatGPT and it lies to you, but it's trying to give you the most relevant information. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without 15 different links you have to sift through to wonder, is this paid placement? Is this an advertisement?
Yeah.
Is this SEO gaming? Is this SEO farming?
Is this a video that I have to watch 15 minutes of to get to the information that I actually want?
Dude, that's the other thing. And I got to tell you, you and I are responsible for that.
I mean, a little, I don't make those kinds of videos, but
Not entirely, but you and I and the people that we know and the people that we worked with, we are responsible for that. The pivot to video is what basically gave us our careers.
That's true.
When people said it's not going to be writers, it's not going to be blogs on the internet anymore, it's all video. Everything has to be video. This was the last time. Everything has to be video was the 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everything's going to be AI.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It was like, oh man, I could look up an article, but I'm looking for instructions on something and I'd rather have it like explained to me and I'd rather see it, and like a still picture doesn't do
I don't want to read.
Yeah. Like there were reasons why the pivot to video was, and also you could shove so many ads into video. You could just shove so many fucking ads right into video. Oh, it was good. So like it's that ease of use, and it's the ease of use and the bottom line. Right? Yeah. Those two things together are what caused this to happen. When they were looking at the themes from the qualitative interviews, a lot of people in these interviews, Jeff, acknowledged their heavy reliance on AI for things like memory and decision making. They're aware of it, right? Yeah. Younger users admit that they are particularly affected by it.
I don't think we've gotten to that point yet where we think it's a bad thing.
Right.
At least certainly that generation doesn't, right? It's a new shiny toy.
Well, I think they maybe know academically that it's a bad thing, right? Like I know scrolling social media is a bad thing. I know playing video games for 4 hours a day is a bad thing. Every once in a while I'm going to do it because I like it, right?
Right.
And I think
ease of use again.
I think even though these people are younger, I don't want to remove all self-awareness from them. I think they do know, like, man, I wish I wasn't so dependent on this. And that is something that I see a lot, from people like in the Gen X, Gen Alpha sort of ranges. Like man, I don't know. I don't have anything in my brain. I wish I had more in my brain, is what they say.
Yeah.
And it's like, where do I go to get it?
Right.
So like the other thing that people are very, very concerned about, even though they may use these tools all the time, is they are worried about algorithmic bias and a lack of transparency in AI recommendations. They go, I think this is probably the best and easiest tool, but I am worried. I am worried that it's biased. I am worried that it's giving me incorrect information. I am worried that it's trained on bad information.
Yeah.
Right?
Pushing me in a direction that I don't necessarily want to go in.
Yeah. And I think, and this is why I'm like, are we too scared of AI? Are we not scared enough of AI? Is because I know that I gave the same answers about the internet when older people were asking me, when older people were scared of the internet.
Right.
I remember they were like, what about the internet? I was like, yeah, I could see where like it could be a little where, you know, it could be bad for my attention span, or I could be getting fake information, or I could be like seeing, or especially on the early days of the internet, you could be seeing some shit that would fuck you up.
Well, that's true too. But you remember how many people asked you like, well, should I put my credit card into the internet?
Yeah.
Remember that? And now I literally just tap my phone at a place and buy things. Tap. What? I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, dude.
Tap.
Nobody has ever checked to see if you're tapping the correct anything. You would like, that's the thing. Like you could tap anything. I could tap. I could literally like steal your wallet, walk in, tap it, buy a coffee, bring it back, put your wallet back in your pocket, walk away.
Yeah.
And I might. Pickpocketry might be the next thing I learn. I think it would be very interesting.
You know, ask ChatGPT how to pickpocket. It'll tell you.
It said to eat rocks. It said eat rocks, kid.
But do you remember how many times your parents or people of your parents' generation would say like, well, I'm not, back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, I'm not putting my credit card into the internet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm like, you write it on a piece of paper and hand it to a person in a room. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, it was more likely. I think your credit card number was more likely to be stolen by like literally anybody back in the day. Like,
oh man,
like I remember being a tiny child, and like seeing a credit card being used for the first time, and this is when I'm going to sound as old as Jeff. I remember. The credit card was placed on a tray.
Oh yeah.
And then
shunk.
And then over that tray, carbon copy paper was placed.
That's right.
And that's why credit card names and numbers are raised up off the card.
They're embossed,
Is so they could wipe something over the card back and forth.
That shunk thing,
Yeah, get an imprint of the card.
Yeah.
Instead of writing down the information. And then you would get the carbon copy of the credit card receipt after you signed it. Using credit was a big responsibility.
I remember I worked in a box office for a major venue in Los Angeles in the early 2000s.
That must have been so annoying.
Oh, it was an experience, I'll tell you that. But the number of people that we were, you know, introducing internet ticket purchasing, right? It was kind of a newish thing at that time. So many people are like, I'm not putting my credit card into your website. I will instead write it on a piece of paper, put that piece of paper in an envelope, mail it to your office.
That's right.
That's the safe way to do it, where we would just have stacks of people's mailed credit card information lying around the office.
Yeah.
You know, for anybody to see through the mail, who knows how many fingers touched it?
Bought a PlayStation 2 with some of that information. Put it right into the internet.
There's no way I'm putting that into a website, though.
Yeah, and so I do worry about, like, you know, I worry like rock and roll is going to destroy the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I worry
I think about that all the time, dude. I think about, you know, the printing press was the end of civilization. I do think there's an order of magnitude difference, right, with the internet and social media and what has happened. I do think there's measurable difference, but I am always reminded of that. I'm always thinking about how every major technology shakes the world. I just watched a video about Hank Green did a really great video about how literally every major communication technology results in authoritarian rule for a short period of time.
Yep.
Like, and it gets corrected, but it takes a while. Right?
And the problem with where we're at right now is the new technology is coming so quickly, right? Yeah. So every time something new comes out, you've got that 4 years or 4 or 5 years, 10 years, whatever, where it's being used for authoritarian purposes. And the problem is the authoritarians keep coming out with new stuff so quickly, so world changing over the last, over
15 minutes,
over the last 40 years. You got to think about, since over the last 40 years, how much like life-changing technology has come out and how often, even over the last 15, 20 years with the internet, like it's so quick that the consolidation of power and money has come so fast that it's pretty wild to look at. I mean, what they're looking at in these findings is like, hey, what is going to happen with the integration of AI in professional and educational settings? You know, there are a lot of teachers that are saying right now, I can tell when kids are using AI to write papers. And I'm like, please don't use AI to write your papers.
Right.
Like, please. I know writing papers sucks, but that's the whole point. Like, that's the point. You know, schools schools and universities, like, what are they going to do? I mean, they're already using like anti-AI filters, right? But those only work so well. Like, you've got people who are like, no, I wrote this. You've got artists who are like, no, I drew this. And they're being accused of, you know, AI. But what we're looking at is probably a world, and it's something that you just touched on. We're looking at a world where critical thinking, metacognitive skills, media literacy, things like that are going to be so much more important. And need to become the focus of education, which is very interesting because that used to be the entirety of a university education, right? Before things became so standardized and before universities became, obviously there was a huge problem with universities being only for, with universities being very classist and very racist and very sexist and only being for the top percentage of the ruling class to go to a nice school, right? Before, you know, over the couple generations, you know, my mom was like the first person in our family to go to college, right? Like, it's stuff like that where now everybody goes to college and the education has become much more standardized. But universities used to be about like, hey, you've got to learn these metacognitive skills.
Right.
You've got to, we're going to have you read the great works, but the reason we're having you read the great works is so you can like make critical and theoretical arguments about them. You know, people make fun of liberal arts educations because they're not useful, right? They don't have an immediate economic use, right? They're not productive. They're not, you don't go to school and get a liberal arts education to get a job. But that wasn't the point of the liberal arts education in the past. The point of the liberal arts education was to make you smart. And I think what's funny is like, I look at a lot of the people that I know that went the liberal arts education route, you know, whether they studied some garbage like philosophy, you know, or some garbage like, you know, like comparative literature or something. They're fucking smart people.
Right.
They just don't have something that they can put on their resume that is a job related skill. And so,
well, that's the part of the problem, I think, is that we've devalued those, the stuff you're talking about, which is like, oh, comparative lit is not applicable in a direct way to the cogs in the money generating machine that is capitalism. And it's like, well, let's not be so hasty about that point, because the idea of actually having someone that can think and apply their brain in interesting ways, and that's kind of what liberal arts education is supposed to be is, hey, a broad mind that is facile and you can leverage to do all kinds of interesting things. No. Did you go to school to get a business degree? Yeah. That's the only way you can be in business, you know?
Yeah, it's very interesting how we've de-emphasized all that stuff. Particularly like even on the pre-university level, like the reliance on standardized testing and standardized curriculums and things like that. It makes sense. There are so many kids that need education. And when you have to educate so many kids, there's a standard, there is a standard group of skills that you want them all to have.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's not really engaging and it's not really teaching them to be smart. It's a lot of it is, I honestly think the only thing that really before the university is still an education that teaches kids a skill is unfortunately like mathematics. That's the only thing we really focus on where it's like the kid has learned how to solve problems in some way. But
I think that obviously there are lots of fields of study that have direct application. I'm not trying to minimize that, but I had in college.
I was a kid who loved English and art, right? Like, particularly visual art, and it was rote memorization of the same 4 books for everybody without like a lot of, the public school education for humanities is not great,
right?
And so things that can be reproducible, a skill that is reproducible. Like math, like equations, like things like that. A public school is very good at teaching, I
had a job in college. I worked at the College of Letters and Sciences as a student advisor, my last 2 years of college. And kids, it was basically like counseling kids. Do I have enough credits? Do I need this and that? But I would get all the time, I would get incoming freshmen who'd come in for a meeting with their parents. And the parents would be like, I don't know what I want to major in. And the parents were like, what's the major that will get them a job? And I was like, I don't think that exists.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. Like, there's no like A plus B equals C. It's just, obviously there's some things, but for the most part, it's like learn how to learn and learn how to use your brain.
The other thing is when you look at a job market, and then this is the problem with looking at school as a place to get a job.
Right.
If you go into college and you start majoring in something because everybody's hiring for that thing, by the time you get out of college, the job market has changed.
Right.
And there are things that, like you're saying, will always be hiring for. Obviously the people who go into who
petroleum sciences, for example.
Yeah, engineering fields, medical, law, like all the stuff that people think of as there's always going to be kind of a need for that stuff. But even that stuff ebbs and flows. But the thing that's interesting here is it's like, yes, we have to go back to that sort of classical education, this sort of critical thinking education, but also developers of AI need to consider cognitive implications, and they won't.
Yeah, they're going to definitely do that.
And they won't, which means that policymakers need to support things like digital literacy, media literacy. And I've got to tell you, there are only a few people in government right now that I can think of off the top of my head that are even saying things like that.
Oh, they don't think about that at all. No, it has to be on the local level, honestly.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. The other thing that I looked into this a little further after looking at this study is there was a collection of essays that the Oxford Press put out last year called AI Morality.
All of them AI generated.
That's right. It was great. It's all about how to treat people that have 7 to 12 fingers on each hand as kindly as you would treat anybody else. And there is real normal number of fingers.
That's right. That's right. We need to rethink hands. Was his entire.
Is it time for hands to go away? Hands, should they always be hidden in pockets or behind ferns? AI Morality was this collection of essays from basically it was edited by this philosopher, David Edmonds, who calls it a collection of essays from a philosophical task force.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Kind of thinking about how AI could revolutionize our lives, but also all the moral dilemmas that are going to come with it.
The philosophical task force, when they're deployed, they need a while to think about it.
That's right. We've deployed the philosophical task force. Great. What sort of results are we seeing? None. We're not going to see results. That's not what it's for.
No.
No, but they've really looked at this inside and out. They have it. Listen, we're not seeing results, but what we're seeing is 45 different really thought out theories about what's going down. They're also fighting a lot amongst each other.
There's an entire series of meetings about when to schedule the meetings.
That's right. And whether scheduling meetings is and of itself classist. There was an excerpt that was from one of the essays that was published by Live Science by Muriel Leuenberger, who's a researcher in ethics and technology in the University of Zurich. And she said, and the essay is called, "Should You Let AI Tell You Who You Are and What You Should Do?"
Who am I? What should I do?
And it's a lot about the trust that we already put into algorithms, and that trust being pushed even further into AI, and how basically, like, if you're constantly using AI to find the music you want to listen to give you the career that you want to go into, to find the political candidate you like, you are risking forgetting how to do this yourself, or you are risking not even seeing all of the alternatives that are available to you within a decision because of the algorithm that has trained the AI. And this was already true of Google, right? The Google algorithm pushed specific things. This was already true of just about anything. And the reason for that is, like, you think about making a new decision about something you don't know anything about. You're deciding maybe that you want to learn an instrument. All you know is that you want to do something musical. You like music. Where do I go from here? Based on who you ask, or the librarian that's on duty at the desk, or the algorithm of the search engine that you choose, or the people who are, or whether Reddit surfaces your post, right? All of this stuff, whether your TikTok gets a ton of views and makes it onto the musical side of TikTok that can give you the real advice that you need, that sort of stuff. Just by asking advice, the nature of asking advice is narrowing the field of possibility. Right? There are so many possibilities, I don't know where to start. And so by asking for advice, I'm hoping that I will be put into the right direction and the useless information will be filtered.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I don't think advice is.
Yes. I don't think there's anything unique about AI in that equation. I mean, that's... Right. Did you get lucky enough to have a good teacher in 4th grade when you went, hey, what does an engineer do? And they're like, I don't know, kid. I'm just trying to get by.
Yeah.
Or you have the teacher who's like,
Spider-Man. I don't know. I can't draw.
Right. You hear about so many people, like accepting Academy Awards and like, I want to thank my teacher. It's like, yeah, you got lucky. You got real lucky that you got pointed in the right direction somehow by some person.
But here's the trick. As these tools become more omnipresent and we are all using the same tools.
Yeah, that's the worry. There's no variation.
Going to get the same advice.
Right.
Even though AI can pretend like it's going to give you different advice, you can tell AI, act like you're this person, act like you're that person. You can tell when you use one of these AIs long enough, I can tell the difference between ChatGPT and Gemini. Like when I was messing around with this stuff in the beginning, when I was like, I really want to know what this is about, right? When I did the Twitch stream, that was the AI version of me, right? That's spoke in my voice and everything. When I was really like looking at all this stuff, you can tell the difference between the AIs when you talk to them because they're all trained differently. They all use different language models.
Yeah.
They are all more likely to do one thing or another. But they all have their own conversational tone and voice. And because of that, it reminds you that they all have their own data sets that they used for training.
Yeah.
And so,
right. And the worry there is that they're each bent to a different ideology, even if it's not readily apparent.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Because even if you're like, well, we tried to take the least biased thing. We tried to take from the most varied sources on the internet we could. Okay. Yeah. Did you take from the most varied sources on the internet you could in English? Did you take from the most varied sources on the internet you could from the last 5 years? Did you take the most varied sources on the internet you could from these sites or this kind of site? Or what did you search? What are you allowed to search, and what did you collect? And
it's like
were those sites themselves inherently biased for a very long time, which we know most of the internet was. The internet is still mostly biased towards a sort of affluent, academic, technically educated, technically savvy white man, right? Mm-hmm. The majority of the internet was created by and for these people. And so particularly when you search things a little bit, and it's US centric, a lot of the internet.
Yeah.
And so when you search, the further back you go in your data set, the more it's like that.
Yeah.
Right. And so there are and then you also have issues that we've been talking about for a long time, which is some groups are more vocal on the internet and are more attracted to conversation on the internet.
Right.
Right. And so those groups are more represented. And then you get into the algorithms that were pre-existing. So your AI is searching a site that already has algorithms that surface stuff, right? What does that mean when you talk about places like Meta, who we know through Cambridge Analytica, who we know through released information, learned very early on that the way to get the most viewers and to get the most engagement is to surface information that makes people angry.
Yeah.
People respond more to things that make them angry than any other emotion. So now you've got an AI that's taking the most surfaced information as correct, and that information was potentially positioned to make people mad.
Yeah.
So now what do you get when you get 2 or 3 competing AIs that everybody is searching for everything, and particularly one dominant AI, ChatGPT, that everybody is asking for advice. Now everybody's getting, like, we were already getting the same album recommendations, the same movie like I go on like Spotify or Apple Music, and I'm like, this is the kind of music I like. And it's like, well, then you'll like these 5 albums. And I'm like, no, I won't. No, I won't. You've got to deal with these people, or these are artists that, you're trying to surface right now, or, whatever. What do you do when we've already removed human recommendation, right? Yeah. Our generation removed human recommendation.
Well, and the thing we're talking about is the critical thinking to even understand that that's what's happening.
That's right.
Because a lot of people don't even think, they would go, oh yeah, those 5, you don't think, why are those 5 bands being surfaced to you? And that critical thinking element is part of what this study is talking about. And it's what's so disturbing about all of it.
I can tell you that people notice. People don't always know why, but people do notice, because, like I said, our generation got rid of human recommendation. This, this new generation is dealing with the fact that it's not even like basic algorithmic anymore. Like, humans are so removed from the process that now it's just absolutely fucked, right? Like, it's not even real information in the recommendations. Like we're saying, like, it's not only humans have been removed from the process, but results have been removed from Google. So
that's right. You want to hear something funny? Around the same time I was working at that box office, I had a girlfriend who had a side job. This is like early 2000s. It's so funny to me because it seems so quaint, but she had a side job for this, I think now defunct website that was trying to compile that kind of data set of, if you like this band, you're probably going to like this band. And her job literally was to write down, like, she would get a list of bands or individual songs, and she would write 5 other bands or songs that she thought
that database.
Literally a human being just thinking about it, just going, yeah, they probably like this. And they had, dozens of people doing this, and then they'd cross-pollinate those lists.
Yes. That's the point that I'm getting to, is people don't know, but they feel the difference, because last year when Spotify laid off a lot of its curation team.
Yeah.
One of the things people loved about Spotify was its curation. Right. I started getting Apple Music for free with my phone. So I started using it because it's like one less bill, right?
Right.
But I immediately missed Spotify because of the recommendation engine. But last year, Spotify fired just about all those people and started making those playlists, those weekly playlists that are like, here's the best hip hop of this week. Here's the best electronic music of this week, but like really in depth, right? Like, here's the best, here's the best like drum and bass, like retro, like whatever. Like Spotify had the craziest lists, and they were always good. They gave all that shit to an algorithm, and people were immediately like, my Spotify is trash now.
Mm-hmm.
My Spotify is trash now. And that's the thing. It's people have now taken the Cory Doctorow term in shitification. Yeah. And it is now like, my mom knows the term in shitification. Congratulations, Cory Doctorow. I feel like once every 5 years since the dawn of the internet, Cory Doctorow does one thing that changes culture in a very small way.
Yeah.
And then disappears for another 5 years. I mean, he's still working, but once every 5 years, Cory Doctorow does something and it's like, fuck, he was so right.
Yeah.
But this is, what she's talking about is like, people are not creating themselves anymore. And we are not creating ourselves through social interaction the way people have been used to throughout history.
I just don't know if there's anything to be done about that.
It's tricky.
Like it's just the flow of progress. And progress may be the wrong term, because it feels like the opposite of that. But it feels like it to stand against that tide feels impossible.
Yeah. And going back to what we've been saying, I wonder about, pre-internet days when all of your self and your recommendations and your advice would just come from the people around you. That,
Right. Yeah,
that can be limiting as well, right?
Sure.
Just having the people around you. But I feel like like you were saying, we were on this precipice of like, now we can balance the personal feelings and information and the advice of those who are closest to us with the whole of human knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of had that ripped away very quickly.
For sure we did.
And we don't have that like very cool sort of balance of that anymore that it looked like we were heading towards.
Yeah.
And
one hopes it can right itself. I mean, if you look in history, as the printing press came about, there was massive propaganda machine in its initial time, because people didn't know what to do with it,
Yeah.
And these things balance out as information technologies have been introduced. But as you've said, the pace and the magnitude of the impact this time feels hard to outpace. And you wonder how long it'll take for humanity to sort of right itself and be able to process this amount of information in a balanced way.
I think, and I think it's interesting for us as people who we want the hoverboard future. We want the automated space luxury communism. You know what I mean?
Right.
We want the Federation from Star Trek. But the thing is, and the Federation, probably we want the Federation as it was presented like on Next Generation.
Yeah.
Like the real idealistic one.
Right.
But to get there, we know that to get there, we have to go through the shit technology first. It has to get better, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's my life. My lifespan is the shit part, not the cool federated part.
But think about I don't know. But think about I feel like my grandmother must have felt the same way going from riding a horse
into
town
Yeah.
And being the first family. She was like, she always talks about being the first family in the village to have a phonograph.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that Hank Green video I was mentioning earlier, he talks about radio. Yeah. Radio being this, like, all of a sudden the voice of someone could be in your house. So it could be in everyone's house at the same moment.
And they didn't even have mattresses that you could unpack from a small box yet.
No.
So what were they talking about all the time?
That's right. There were no meal kits.
What did they do? How did they support the radio?
I don't understand it. Hey, before we leave, I just want to be really clear about the story that we're talking about today at the beginning, because it occurs to me that we literally are talking about a study where they got 666 people together, and then found out who was the most gullible of them.
Yes,
that seems interesting.
Why? They also then offered all of those people a deal, a life-changing deal.
Yeah, right.
Don't worry about and they said, don't worry about the cost. Isn't this everything you've ever wanted?
Our grant,
science, baby.
It's science.
Science is drawing salt circles on the ground. You know, we always say here, we have concerns. Science is a feeling.
It really is. And if you enjoy that feeling as much as we do, why not support this here program where we talk about science ? You can do that on Patreon, patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
That's right. For just $1 a month, you can get access to our Discord, which is where everybody's hanging out and doing cool stuff. You wouldn't believe it. I'd tell you what they were doing, but they were like, don't tell anybody outside the Discord what we're doing.
Yeah,
don't do
they
it.
They get
man.
real precious about it because it's so awesome in there.
Yeah, they're like, no, this is just for cools only, so don't tell anybody. And then as you give us a little bit more money, you get a little bit more as well, including the cold opens to the episodes, which are entire conversations that we have. You get those as bonus episodes, as well as Q&As and all kinds of bonus stuff going all the way back to the beginning of the show.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much content there. See how naive and optimistic we were.
Yeah, that's right. Patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.